I don't quite remember where I was a moment ago before we met. I know I was waiting by myself or whom or why quite set until you appeared and touched my shoulder. Surprise, surprise, I'm back again. And you were with me still, as if forever, our lives continuing like just another rain. What are all those blanks I seem to recall? Now gone, somewhere, never explained, but somehow remembered when I awakened, like this morning's sudden rush to stay regained. Strange, don't you think? I do.
Local retired teacher and poet Owen Neill, Canada's Poet of the Wolf, has recently been diagnosed with dementia. Each person living with dementia is different. Getting to know the person and their life is important in order to give them the support they need and want. For Owen, his love of poetry and writing started at a young age.
Well, I started writing when I was about 8 years old, though I was told by my parents. But it started even earlier than that, not the writing aspect, but the interest in literature. Because when I was 2 years old, so the story goes, and it's in writing, my grandfather in England, my mother's father, sent me a book for my second year for Christmas. And my mother used to read the stories in that book. It was about children's stories. And my mother used to read them to me, so the story goes. And I used to look at the pictures. And that we assumed that was the beginning of the end. No, not the end. The beginning of the beginning, as far as my interest in literature was concerned, and then it seemed to grow from then on. I remember when I was a little kid in public school, I used to write outlines of cowboy stories, and of course, children's activities were a little different in those days than they are now. And we used to have neighborhood organizations. For some strange reason, I thought it proper or of interest to have me write a storyline down, and then we would act them out in the neighborhood. But it was a start with just using my imagination. And inventing stories, and that to my mind is how it sort of all got started.
After Owen retired as a teacher in Sault Ste. Marie, he traveled across Canada, ending up out west to pursue his writing on a full-time basis.
I tried to get 6 hours a day of actual writing, or more, but that was my goal. 6 hours. And then you've done your day's work. But it seems as though I had so much to say, and as far as stories were concerned, and poems kept growing, and that writing process kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I loved writing poems because you could say a whole lot in a few words, and that basically is why I stayed with it, because I was just too tired to say something that took 10 pages when I could do it in one. And poetry allowed me to do that, and it also was not only allowed me to do that, but it opened up vocabulary problems, and that was a problem when I first began writing poetry. But I was very fortunate to have some friends in the writing business who helped me with bring my writing down to a level where people could actually enjoy it. And hopefully there's still time.
Throughout the years, Owen has published over 15 books and has been the recipient of many awards in Canada, including the Acorn Award, which was very important to him.
Oh, I've got hundreds of awards over the years. My biggest award is the Poet Laureateship of Durham Region in Southern Ontario. I moved down that area, part of the country, for a while after I retired from teaching, and they took me right in, and I started writing like a mad fiend to try to catch up to all the demands that I had, and the arts council there gave me that award. And it was very important as far as I was concerned, because almost 1 million people involved in that part of the country.
Owen has also been recognized overseas in Ireland, and he has even been asked to become a member of their community.
Ireland was celebrating writing every year in September for 3 days, where they all visited this writers group, and writers from all over the British Isles meet there, and I was surprised that the welcome that I got as an Irish Canadian. They actually put my name up on a bronze plaque. They have got a great big cement or stone chair. Some are musicians, and some were writers, and some were actors. And I got my name on there too, with all these famous people over there, which doesn't seem to mean much in Canada, but over there, they made a big deal of it. And, I almost went to live there, because the poetry in Ireland is still unbelievably popular among the people. And of all the places I've been in North America and the British Isles, the poetry seems in Ireland is as strong as it can be. So, and of course they were famous for their poets way back. Number I got is 2,000 years, but a lot of history has taken place in Ireland since over those times. But poetry still remains at a pace where every village, every town, every city in Ireland has its own poet. And I was invited to stay and live among them there because they enjoyed my work.
Owen's daughter, Barb Forrest, a seniors mental health services worker, started to notice significant changes in Owen and started the process to find out what was happening with her father.
I had noticed changes with Dad even before we got the diagnosis, and having worked in the field for over 30 years now, I started to see changes, word finding difficulties, and just some very mild changes. Most people would put it off, and you don't really think too much about it. Probably over the last 3 years, I've noticed some significant changes, and the biggest thing for me was when Dad had stopped writing every day. He also had difficulty remembering how to use his typewriter, so that was something that he had had for years and years, and used it on a daily basis. So I had a feeling that there was something else that was going on that we needed to get to the bottom of.
Not that long ago, they asked me if I wanted to write, wanted me to take a test, a health test. It was it was an hour-long test that they have, and when I got the result of it, I for the first time in my life, I realized that I had something wrong.
Life doesn't end when Alzheimer's begins, and there's more to the person than their disease. So teaming up with the Alzheimer's Society of Sault Ste. Marie was a step in the right direction.
It certainly gives you a different perspective on things. I know what the Alzheimer's Society can do for individuals and families and the great work that they've done over the years. Being a client, it feels different. There is more of an emotional connection that you get with the staff. It makes the journey very personal, so I have a greater understanding from a personal perspective now when I'm helping people that are on their dementia journey.
Well, I didn't know what Alzheimer's was when I came to stay here in the home, and I was invited to come and visit one of their meetings, and I started that 2 years ago now. And each time I went, I felt a very comfortable stage in my attitude, being with them and hearing about them. And I started to find out through their little talks what Alzheimer's was. I never heard of it before. I got into it, and it got into me.
Now living at Pathways Retirement Residence, Owen enjoys his weekly visits from his recreational therapist, Lisa Ritchie, from the Alzheimer's Society of Sault Ste. Marie. Early on, Lisa learned of his accomplished past, but noticed his passion and drive for writing had disappeared.
I met Owen about a couple of years ago. We both kind of came to the Alzheimer's Society around the same time. Owen actually brought in a photo album of when he lived out west. He actually helped raise wolf pups on a part-time basis, and that's when he started talking a lot about his poetry and how he would write for days, and he would sit in his home and there'd be a creek, and he would just describe this perfect little place to get all this inspiration from. So it kind of bothered me that he had such that passion for writing, and then I'd ask him if he still does, and he said no, he doesn't have that drive anymore to do it. And it actually broke my heart.
I kept my writing going when I got to join the group here. And then I got just sick and tired of everything. And I actually quit writing for about 6 months.
I was really worried. I was worried about Dad kind of dipping into depression, as well as the cognitive changes that he was going through. And even despite encouragement from family, it's not the same as you get from outside people who are recognizing and encouraging your work.
Knowing that a diagnosis of dementia doesn't automatically mean that a person will be unable to carry on with their routines and hobbies, Lisa was determined to see Owen regain his love for writing poetry again and arranged for him to meet with a poetry group.
Well, we also had another lady that worked at the Alzheimer's Society who was really artsy. So I got talking to her about Owen and different things, and she actually started a poetry group at the library that met once a month. So I got Owen out to one of them, and he walked into that library and everybody knew him. Even some of the people that were part of the poetry group remembered who he was, even had some of his books. So that definitely sparked an interest in him to start writing again, to show him that people still remember who he is and knew what he could do. So I just supplied him with the tools and let him know that it was stress-free and write whatever he wanted to write.
Something happened that stimulated my desire to keep on writing, and it was due to the influence of our conversations and with the Alzheimer's system here. And I started tinkering away one day with my pen again, and I wrote something down, and I said, well, that's not too bad. What else we got here? So I started investigating the word Alzheimer's, and then I started writing a few things down about it once I found out what Alzheimer's was like. And the strange thing was that I actually got a kick out of it. I found a lot of some aspects of Alzheimer's amusing, or made it amusing anyway, and people started paying attention to my a few little poems that I made.
So when Dad started getting involved with recreational therapy, it was a huge change for him. He really got interested, excited again, something that he had lost. He seemed to get some inspiration from going through the whole process, and because being a writer, he's very introspective. So I think that gives him a very unique perspective on his own journey, and I'm really glad that he's able to do that and share that with other people.
Oh my goodness, the first few poems that he wrote actually tugged at my heart. It was wild what he came up with, and then he would do a humor spin on them so they weren't so serious. And then he came out and he did a whole bunch of love poems like he used to do. So I'm learning a lot from him in this whole process.
Owen is now able to share his poetry with others with the help of his visits from his recreational therapist.
Well, we started with just reminiscing. He just wanted someone to listen to him and tell his stories and to be heard again. And then once we started writing, he would write his poetry, like handwritten. So then I would come in on Mondays and I would actually bring my computer and we'd type up the poems. So then I would print them off, give them back to him. So he'd go through and he'd edit and change things around and stuff. So it still got him doing that teacher thing that he kind of lost. And then we started doing, through the publisher program on the computer, we started actually doing poetry pamphlets we came up with, and poems by Owen. So it was the best way to get all the poems together but not do a huge book. So once the poems, we do the pamphlets, I print them off, I give them to him, and he just hands them out to anybody and everybody that wants to read them, just to get his voice heard and for people to know that they're not alone in the aging process.
And now I'm going full blast. We've got hopefully a book or something coming that the Alzheimer's can use to get people to appreciate what Alzheimer's really is, not just a strange word in my vocabulary. And so that's why I'm here. That's why we're all here.
Seeing the person and not their disease helps recreational therapists focus their attention on what they can do rather than what they can't do.
It's really person-centered. Everybody is different, and in Owen's case, he loves his poetry. That's what speaks to him the most. There's some people who we got back into sewing, and they may not have been able to do the whole outfit, but we made it into smaller pieces. So again, going back to just adapting for each person and finding out who they were, who they are now, and maybe what they want to learn in the future.
I see more positivity. You know, he has more things to look forward to. Really, he's can't wait for Monday to come and Lisa to come for his one-on-one rec therapy sessions. So that's talking about writing and working on his writing and his projects. Dad also attends the Minds in Motion group on Thursdays, which he also loves. He loves being with the people, just having that social stimulation. And these kinds of activities are really important for him. You know, it celebrates him in what he's still able to do despite the disease. So that's something that we often don't talk about too much anymore, Alzheimer's disease. We talk about, what are you doing? How was your visit with Lisa? What are you guys talking about? Are you writing? What happened at Minds and Motions? Did you have a good time? So it's all about continuing to live well, enhancing your life despite having Alzheimer's disease, recognizing that life is still worth living. There's lots of really great things that you can do and participate in, and I've really seen that change in him since he's been involved.
We always hear, I used to do this, I used to do that, and as a recreation therapist, we are trying to change used to do's to still can do's.
Positive attitudes and engagement of people with dementia in activities that build on their strengths and life history will foster their self-worth, maintain their identity, and prolong their independence. For Owen, his daughter Barb, and even Lisa, all have benefited from Owen's journey in living well with dementia.
I mean, I didn't know Owen at all when I first started visiting with him, so through his pictures and that, I got to develop who he was as a person and what he loved to do and what he still could do. And it actually developed an interest for me. I've never been a poetry person, but working with him through some of his works, it kind of sparked an interest, and now I can understand a whole new love of poetry through his work and what he used to do and what he still does do.
I've written about 10,000 poems in my lifetime. I don't have them all, so I can't prove it. But when I spent some time with my daughter going over what I went through at each stage of my life, and the way it was going at the time, I was able to arrive at that number. It's around 10,000. It's a lot more than that now, of course, and I'm starting back at it. Thanks to the Alzheimer's.
I look forward to the visits, and then just seeing how he looks forward to them and being there for them and encouraging him through this process to know that people are listening to him now. They are hearing who he is, what he used to do, and what he's doing now.
For my dad, the Alzheimer's Society is enhancing his person, who he is, continuing to celebrate that, to nurture that. It's just, I think it's an incredible job, you know, that they're able to do that, that's available for him. And for me as a caregiver, it's been a great relief. It makes me very happy to see that he's enjoying life again and in that capacity.
I'm still finding out what Alzheimer's is, and I want to do something to help not only myself but others with it, because it's so widespread, and it seems as though the more we have of senior people in our society, the more likely we will be prone to Alzheimer's disease, and we're going to have to do something more than we're doing now about it, and I'm glad that I can help with my writing to get Alzheimer's going locally. And I've had nothing but appreciation for everything that they have done on my behalf in the 2 years that I've been there.